Hello everyone and welcome to another Robocraft 2 video. This one's going to be on planes and how to make them very good, despite them being very different from Robocraft 1. I'm also going to teach you a little bit about how rails work and how to counter them with planes. So without further ado, let's get this tutorial started. Now, Robocraft 1 planes worked a little differently. Wings provided no thrust at all. So whenever you use them, you needed thrusters to make them go forward. Now thrusters applied force as if they were a rocket, so this would propel them forward as they are facing this way. And thrusters were the source of all the movement for the plane. Wings provided little to none. Actually, I think they provided none, I don't really know. And wings only provided turning and pitch. However, in Robocraft 2, the wings themselves provide the thrust, and rudders are replaced with small wings. And you cannot anymore place rudders or small wings on the top of a Robocraft. For the rest of this video, I'm going to be using a red square right about in the middle of the bot to represent the center of mass. Now, this provides some interesting stuff, meaning that if we have more wings, we get more thrust. Logically speaking, because you get more thrust. Now, that's part one of why Robocraft 2 planes feel so weird, but there's another interesting and relatively unknown part of why planes are so weird. Now, I kind of lied to you. The wings themselves do apply thrust. However, the thrust is not applied at the wing, as you may think, is instead applied at the center of mass. What this means is that the further back the center of mass is, that means the stronger the force applied by the wings is going to be. So what this means is that you want to have a relatively heavy back along with a bunch of wings up front, as the back wings often easily get shot off and that moves the center of mass forward. Now, there are some slight inaccuracies, because this is just a drawing and we don't know what the code is, and also I'm not exactly the best at making the wings. However, this is relatively close enough, and it's good enough for actually building a bot. Yo, Editor Moonwalker here. Do you know that only 4% of you watching this video are subscribed? I think we need to get that number up, and as we all know, the more you subscribe, and the more you like, and the more you watch, the higher chance you have of getting into the playtest and getting a Plutonium drop in your first game. So subscribe, I guess. Back to the real game, we can now see this in action. However, first, I must explain how rails actually work. So, rails work a little different than they did in old Robocraft 1. Rails still do apply direct damage at the point of contact, and that's pretty normal. However, the rail damage can only spread 1, 2, 3, 6 blocks, and this block cannot be damaged by any rail, no matter how much damage it does. Now this applies for any block, it doesn't just apply for regular old cubes. This also works with slopes, which allow you to make it a lot smaller, left to right or up to down, and these are generally the correct choice for making a good bot with planes. Now, to see this in action, you can see this bot right here, the AP636 Freedom Fighter. This includes some aggressive triforcing measures, which include these little arches all across the bot, not just on the bottom, on the top and also over here. And these measures enforce that the rails can't really do anything to this bot. You can watch the video on the link on screen right about now, and rails can't really do much. Now, this damage rerouting pattern is often weaving, and it's one of the easiest patterns as it requires just one actual pattern, and you can just repeat it everywhere. Back to regular planes, We can add wings to this, however, one problem remains. What if our seat over here ends up getting disconnected entirely from the rest of the bot? Now, if we have a blink module, that's okay, as the seat can survive, won't just get instantly exploded. However, it can't really escape. So what we do is we employ a technique that's an ejector seat. So if everything else out here gets destroyed, all of this will be red. Everything's gone. However, our pilot seat can still fly away relatively easily with these wings. For optimal efficiency, we want a bot like this that has lots of these little tentacle things and is going backwards to push the center of mass away from the front of the bot and more towards the back, as we spoke about earlier. All in all, when this kind of design is done, it looks kind of like this, with many wings on the front and few wings as the ejector seat on the back. If you look down here, you can see that it's all connected only by one point, and once this point gets destroyed, or the whole bottom half gets destroyed, it ejects away. Now, to emulate this design on this bot here, it's a little bit smaller, so the center of mass is going to be quite a bit more forward, which is not exactly optimal, however, it's not that far forward. So if we start putting wings down here, you can see that the center of mass starts to go forward, which you need to account for. However, with this kind of bot, if we go into test drive mode right about now, you can see that the bot moves very fast, turns quite fast, and also pitches up and down quite fast. And with the blink, you can easily get away from sticky situations. So with this sort of design, we've created a relatively good bot. Now, there are some pretty important ways to improve this. For one, you also want the prisms going this way towards the back to move the center of mass further backwards, and you also want a longer bot, as that provides more space for more wings, and also provides a heavier bot, which somehow makes it faster. No one really knows why it works, but it does work. More ways to improve it are connecting the upper wings closer to the bot, as you need these to be connected. You can't have half of the wings being completely destroyed after one rail hit, as we're trying to make an anti-rim. You also want more sets of the weaving technique, especially up around here. This will create some relatively powerful weaving techniques, and along with that, it would shield the bot from rail shots, hitting the top of the bot rather than just the bottom, as you sometimes go upside down, of course. Once you've created the upper section of the weaving, however, it's a lot more liberal in its weaving, and it creates much more connection points. You also want to connect the top and the bottom of stuff like this. So apologies for the lag, but this happens in the bay usually. And with these points, it allows the bottom half to be destroyed, with the top half not being destroyed. The top half contains roughly half of the wings. It also allows parts of the bottom half to be destroyed and still be on the bot, as it's been saved by these little red lines. Once you're done, your bot should be relatively immune to rail, resistant against plasma, and since laser is already so weak, it's basically immune to it as well. Now, unfortunately, while the heavier the bot is, faster and easier it turns, it does become a lot slower once you turn left or right, and once you turn like that, it slows down nearly to a halt. Wow, okay, that completely broke the game, it seems. And this creates a relatively small problem, as surprisingly slowing down actually helps, as the AI doesn't know how to predict where you go. So unless you're facing against real humans, this is actually an upside. When you're facing against real humans, this is a slight downside. However, it doesn't really matter, because the real bots can't really hit you, and the lasers already suck, and plasma players usually can't hit a flying object, which is why it's complained about so much. I hope this explained a lot of the complaints about wings, and how to make good plane bots. However, some of the more technical stuff is probably wrong, as I don't really do the technical stuff, I just build, really. However, you don't really need to know the technical stuff to start building like this. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope now you know how to make good planes.